Good morning and welcome. Welcome to our series this morning. We've been leaning into what does it look like for our health, our physical health, our emotional health, like a number of health factors that really impacts how we move every day. And so I've been just really leaning into beyond your nutrition. And so as a one, most people know me as a health coach, but two, as a licensed clinical social worker, I also do lifestyle health related interventions. And so being able to have this conversation that we're going to have today, I'm excited about because um, one, we need to have the conversation, right? And it's about, I'm going back to January, to a conversation I had back in January, because the lack of sleep and the lack of rest is causing physical problems in our health, and we often overlook it. And so I am setting up for, let me set this up right quick. But thank you all so much for joining. Make sure you share this out. I'm Regina Lacking, LCSW. I am the founder and lead specialist with Doing Life Well Integrated Health and Consulting, Integrated Behavior Health. We're not talking about psychological behaviors. I'm talking about your lifestyle behaviors, things that contribute to preventable chronic diseases. That is my aim. If you have a chronic disease or someone you know and or love have a chronic disease, then you want them in this room and to start following me because um, what we know is that a lot of times, let me hit this live for Facebook also. What we know is that the rate of preventable chronic diseases is very alarming. So let's just have this conversation today. I want to lean into, I am going to be leaning into rest. Type in the comments rest. Why am I leaning into rest? Because we see going hard all the time. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Please do me a solid and share this out. One, there is this notion that the more we do, the more we have, we're just on the go all the time. And I really want to challenge that narrative. I want you to think about, say, for instance, you have a new car, right? You have a new car and you're going and you're going and you're going. Everybody knows at some point you're going to have to stop, turn the car off. At some point, you're going to have some maintenance done on that car. You're going to have to either get the oil change, you're going to have to, that's the main thing I know about is getting the oil change, but you're going to have to get that oil change or something. If you do not, what do you think is going to happen to that car? Thank you. What's up? Thank you for joining out of Jackson, Mississippi. Thank y'all. Drop where you chiming in from also. Thank y'all so much. So when you think about a vehicle that's just going nonstop, at some point it's subject to breakdown or it's subject to shut down. If you don't get your oil change, your motor gonna lock up. And so that's the same thing with our bodies that we don't think about. So I say it all that to say, if we're not prioritizing a few things, and if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I prioritize rest because that is one factor that leads to or contributes to lack of rest. That is one factor that contributes to cardiovascular disease. And we know that, and just in case you did not know that, someone you know and or love has a cardiovascular condition, whether they've had a heart attack or whether they have high blood pressure, whether they have high cholesterol, whether they've had a stroke, or they're at risk for a stroke. Sometimes you don't even know. Y'all, sometimes I will tell you, you can look well enough to live and really be sick enough to die. So I want us to have a conversation about why taking a pause. You know, if you follow me back in January, you saw my content back in January, I was talking about the rest framework. And so make sure you go back and watch that. But today I am going to run the play back and have more conversations about rest, because I know personally people are laying down and they're not waking back up. They're having, possibly having heart attacks in their sleep. And so there are some things that happen when we go to sleep. Like your brain has to has to go through a process to get all the gunk and the junk out from the day, but we don't even think about that. So let me just make this conversation light and easy. I'm saying light and easy, but I want you to be able to walk away. Good morning, TT Roz. I want you to be able to walk away with practical things that you can do if you or someone you know and or love have a cardiovascular condition. I keep saying cardiovascular condition because it's the silent, it's the, we call it the widow maker, we call it the silent killer. And so there is an element that I'm just leaning into, because individually we don't think about it, and collectively in organizations a lot of time we are not really thinking about or focusing on our team members, people that work within our organizations. What does their rest life look like, or what does it look like for people to not be on the go all the time, and to have built in systematic ways that we take care of people, and so, and still get the work done, don't get me wrong, and still get the work done. So I want to set the tone and just share one stat with you, and that is the leading cause of death in the United States. And I live in Mississippi, and the leading cause of death in Mississippi. Can somebody drop in the chat what you believe the leading cause of death is in Mississippi as well as in the United States? And I'm going to pause here and wait for it. What's the number one cause of death in the United States as well as in Mississippi? I have time, and I'm going to wait for it. I do have time. Drop in the comments the number one, the leading cause. Let's say the leading cause of death in the United States. I want you to drop that in the comments for me. I want you to drop that in the comments. Yeah. Yes. The leading cause of death in the United States as well as in Mississippi is heart disease. It's heart disease. That's right, Roz. That's right, Roz. It is heart disease. So, not cancer. And we know a lot of people who are surviving cancer, are living with cancer. Not cancer, not violence, not even anything that we have on our mind. The leading cause of death in the United States is our hearts. Is our hearts. And while that may sound, we know this. We know that cardiovascular disease is a major thing. And the thing that we don't associate with cardiovascular, we oftentimes associate with working out and eating with cardiovascular disease, like, and which is true, saturated fat, contributes to cardiovascular disease, heart disease. But that's not what I want to lean into this morning. What I want to lean into this morning is the weight that we carry, the stress. That's the weight I'm talking about. The stress and the lack of rest that we carry contributes to. And so let me do this clarifier. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. But from a lifestyle standpoint, having walked through some things in my life and know the results of making some shifts, when we're intentional to make these shifts, you can have a precondition. Absolutely. You can have a predisposition to a cardiac event, to cardiovascular disease. You can have a predisposition to a number of things. You can have a predisposition. However, it is, and I want you to drop in the comments, it is our lifestyles, our individual and collective as systems. How do we serve others? but individually, it is our lifestyle that dictates how this thing is gonna go. So many people walk around extremely tired, but keep going anyway. Is that you? Feel the responsibility, the weight of everything and everyone, and keep pressing. I was at a restaurant last night and I had a conversation with a young man. I say young man, he's probably in his 30s or something. And I had this t-shirt on and he asked me what it meant. And there was conversation around, he acknowledged that I would rest. What is that? Here it is. He's about, I'm gonna say 30 something. I could be so far off. But he really pretty much pulled up to the table and said he last week he woke up in the middle of the night like he couldn't breathe, startled, and saying that he does not sleep good. He's not resting. Asked the question, like, what is rest? What are you talking about? What is I can't and so from that conversation and many conversations that I've had with people, I understand the desire to keep pushing. I understand the desire to keep showing up. I understand the desire to be strong, you know, to handle it. But we're not taught what happens when we don't slow down, when we don't have a true pause. Our bodies really do keep score. Whether you verbalize it or not, your body keeps score. And so, this is an opportunity. I want us to talk about stress and rest because so many people acknowledge that they're overwhelmed, carrying too much, stressed out, and their blood pressure is up. Now they're on medications. And so when I talk about, I like to say, if it's preventable, then it's reversible. And so, if you do have a diagnosis or if you have a new diagnosis, that's information. And so, now that it has tiptoed and snuck up on you or not, you may have seen the warning signs and just kind of kept, you know what, I just don't have time to stop. Now we have your attention. Your medical doctor, your medical practitioner has your attention. But do not be defeated. Type that in the comments. I will not be defeated. A lot of times, things like high blood pressure or the conditions are made worse because we do not pause and really evaluate what's really going on. What's really going on. And so our bodies were not meant to be in go mode all the time. If you're not, and I'm just gonna say, if you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, I know somebody asked me, well, I think women's supposed to get less. No, I don't know. No, we need more. Good morning. Hey, what's up? Out of ATL. What's up, Coach Blair? Listen, Coach DeBlair had to run this playback on this cardiovascular and rest as because heart attacks are yet on the rise. You know, cardiac events are yet on the rise. And we're just not prioritizing a wellness that really practices true pausing and true separation. We were not designed, and I repeat, we were not designed to be in go mode 24/7. You know, through the years, it's been this get it out the mud grind culture. But I want to invite you to counter that narrative because, again, I mentioned so many people of being diagnosed with cardiovascular disease. The leading cause of preventable death in the United States is cardiovascular disease. Same thing, I'm in Mississippi, same thing here in Mississippi. And so we were not designed to be in survival mode all the time, fight, flight, run. We were just not designed to be in that. And so I know many people on here are caretakers. And the whole idea is I got to figure it out. I got to make it work. It's just me. I don't have anybody else. And so when we are always in go mode, let me tell y'all what happens. Just in case you did not know, and you feel like I just operate better under all. No, you don't. We've been conditioned to believe that being on the go, getting up early, staying up late, and not getting those 8 hours of sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Like when you go to bed at night, your brain cells have some, your brain, it's some work that has to be done while you sleeping. There is a washing that goes on in your brain. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I've just do some research and get some learning so I can share with y'all. But you're gonna have to go to sleep at night. You're gonna have to go to sleep when you don't rest. When you don't and you stay in go mode and fight or flight mode, your heart rate elevates. Okay. You have increased blood pressure. And people wonder why their midsections sometimes look the way they do because that is the cortisol that is being released as a result of what? Drop it in the comments. Stress. Over time, your elevated blood pressure, your elevated heart rate, and increased cortisol lead directly to good morning. What's up? Thank you for joining over there on YouTube. It leads to high blood pressure, inflammation, and increased risk of heart disease. I'm leaning into this because for one reason, it's preventable. A lot of times cardiovascular disease is preventable. Well, why are you talking about this, Regina? Because so many of us, so many of our loved ones are on medications for heart disease, but we only associate it to medication and working out. Doing something about take your medication, eat your food, is more than plants, is more than meat, it's more than working out. It's also stopping and going to bed and getting some rest. Why are you talking about this, Virginia? Because so many people are not understanding the value of rest in a very real and meaningful way. So let's break this down. The reality of it is it's not it's not just a single thing. It has come up so much. I'm seeing a lot of research as it relates to the link to this cardiovascular disease, conditions, and the lack of rest, right? And so oftentimes we think that high blood pressure is in my genes, it's genetic. It's not. It's not your genes. It's the things. Type that in the comment. It's not my genes, it's the things. It is the things that we're choosing to do or choosing not to do that set us up for a better health outcome. And that's what we want at the end of the day. When I say, when was the last time you took a good rest break? Like seriously. I was sharing with you all that the guy at the restaurant last night, so he feel like he's been on the go so long that he's like, I'm literally killing myself. Now, many people are not going to acknowledge the fact that I've been going so hard that I know that I'm killing myself. And so then that poses the question. We don't give people permission to pause because there is this expectation that you got to get all these things done. Okay, I have a comment. I'm going to pause and read this comment over here on YouTube. I spoke with a friend on Tuesday. She said she finally went to the doctor and blood pressure, cholesterol is through the roof. It's from the stress of taking care of a loved one. That is very real. And thank you so much for sharing. As caretakers, that is a huge responsibility. And for all the caretakers out there, I want to invite you to consider exploring every person who can contribute to that support. That's a really thoughtful approach. Sometimes the most meaningful support comes from unexpected places. Hush, Siri. Absolutely. If we broaden Siri, be quiet. Right, exactly. Oh my goodness. So who asked Siri to start talking? Y'all. But what I'm saying is what I want to come back to is that for I want to address this comment on YouTube. When we think about being caregivers, a lot of people are caregivers. You're either caring for a aunt, uncle, a parent, or even a child. You know, you could have a very ill child that requires a lot of attention, or you can be caring for a child that may not be very ill but still requires a lot of attention. And so as caregivers, there is an extra level of responsibility that we feel and that we own. And if I invite others in this process to support me, then we tend to feel guilty about that. May I submit to you that people around you may want to help you. And if they don't, sometimes you have to explore support from the outside. This comment on on YouTube that says a young lady went to the doctor, her blood pressure is up and her cholesterol is through the roof. She's taking care of a sick loved one. I'll say this, that is not an easy responsibility. And imagine if you're working, there are responsibilities and expectations also in the workplace. And so having a good support system, when I talked about your lifestyle is not just about your nutrition, it's not just about exercising, it is also about healthy relationships. Like when we're thinking about lack of rest and lack of stress, if everybody around you is in the grind culture, you're going to feel a need to be a part of the grind culture too. I'm not doing enough. No, recognize where you are. And this is your invitation to really recognize where you are. Some of the expectations that you tend to put on yourself, nobody else put those on you. And if they did put those expectations on you, I really want you to pause, because you don't want to look well enough to live and be sick enough to die. You look like you fine. You look like you're fine. And so I want to challenge you, check your blood pressure. See what their reading says. I checked my blood pressure the other day and I posted it, y'all. Okay. It was like 95 over 70 something. Why did I do that? I practice breath work and I want to invite you to that space. If you don't know what that is, do a little research or you can message me and I'll be happy to share some information with you. I'm no expert, but I know enough that if I feel tension rising in my body for whatever reason, if I'm working on something, you can feel something in your body. I felt tension rising in my body, so I decided to take a seat. So let's make this thing practical, because I'm talking about how do you lean into um, understanding stress and rest can support better health outcomes. Addressing stress and addressing a real need to rest can improve your health outcomes. It is not the grind culture. It is not going hard all day, every day, 24/7 with no break. That is, let's be counterculture. If that is the culture, let's be counterculture and learn how to take really care of ourselves. So, what I did the other day, I sat down for 5 minutes, and I invite you to practice this exercise. I sat down for 5 minutes in a chair, quiet. I allowed my body to get centered, because a lot of times when people take their blood pressure, they just go flop down and stick their cuff on. I allowed my body to get centered. I sat there for 5 whole minutes before I put the blood pressure cuff on. When I put the cuff on, my blood pressure reading was good. And I decided to do the trio, take it 3 times. So 5 minutes, it was 101 over 80. And that's just from me sitting down for 5 minutes and not being in a hurry. So 1 minute later, I took pictures. You ever heard the phrase trust but verify? Yeah, I took pictures of my blood pressure reading the other day. So when I looked at it a minute later, I checked it a minute later. It was 90. Let's be accurate around here. It was 102 over 74, and I'm reading off my phone. 102 over 74. The third time I took it, it was so it started at 107 over 81, 102 over 74. And then the last reading was 95 over 76. When I sat down for 5 minutes, my blood pressure was 107. So I'm inviting you when you're talking about resting, pausing, this is a tangible thing that you can do. Do you have 5 minutes to give yourself, to take a break, to pause? 5 minutes, as you can tell with my reading, my blood pressure reading can make a very big difference in your health outcomes. Contrary to, you know, being at the gym for 45 minutes to an hour, I'm not discounting the gym. Y'all know I work out. I'm not discounting that. But we can't outwork the conditions that we have when it relates to stress. You can't out eat the cortisol that's being released when you're stressed out. So I'm just having a conversation to raise your consciousness, because we've normalized having high blood pressure. And if you have it, I'm leaning into high blood pressure because that is the leading cause of death in the United States and the leading cause of death in Mississippi. And there is something that we can do in multiple ways. Yes, if you're on medications, take your medications, but also have a conversation with your healthcare provider about our plan. What is our plan? Ask your healthcare provider to give you an opportunity to do something different, and be very specific. There are some lifestyle changes. I'm sure they're going to share with you about what you can do. And then do not be overwhelmed. Take one step. I think I know a lot of people get overwhelmed when they get the information, but it's the one step. It's the one thing that you decide to do. It's not the 10 things. It is the one thing. It is the one thing. And if you can do one thing, I'm going to invite you this week to establishing a rest rhythm this week to better support your cardiovascular health. I want us to think about leaning into pausing and resting for my cardiovascular health. Start with 5 minutes of resting. Rest, you all. Unplugging is not a reward. You don't get to rest. Everybody say I rest when I'm dead. Now you dead when you dead. You ain't resting. No, you're not coming back. Don't take that mindset on, oh, I'm gonna rest when I'm no, you're not gonna rest when you dead. God ain't told you you're gonna rest when you dead. But I want you to understand that rest is not a reward. You don't earn that at the end of the week. What can you do today? 5 minutes. It is a biological necessity. Again, do your own research and let me know what next week, what happens when you go to sleep at night. What happens with your brain when you go to sleep at night? What happens? Rest is how the body repairs. And so if you're not resting, your body is not repairing. Just plain and simple. Plain and simple. You got to get your oil changed on your car. You know, rest is how the heart resets. I just described to you all an exercise that I did, and I'm being very intentional with my cardiovascular health because I do have predisposition to cardiovascular conditions. Um, and I've shared that publicly that my father died of a massive heart attack, and my younger brother also died of a massive heart attack. That does not mean that I'm going to die of a massive heart attack. My grandfather lived to be 92 years old. He slipped away in his sleep. He had a heart attack. But that does not mean I am going to have a massive heart attack or a heart attack at all or any cardiovascular conditions. Why? Because I'm taking the information that today, every decision that we make today impacts your future outcomes. I'm talking about your health outcomes. And so every decision that I make now, when you have information, then you have a choice to do something with it. So I want you to know that when we don't rest, then our bodies cannot repair. I'm just making it plain and simple. Your body cannot repair. Your heart cannot reset. Hey, what's up, Coach D? Thank you for joining. Your body cannot reset. And then this is the thing, your nervous system cannot calm down if you don't really intentionally pause, separate, and take that break. So rest is how the body repairs. It is how the heart resets. It is how the nervous system calms down. I'm just making it plain and simple. Without rest, please understand this, your blood pressure will stay elevated. Your heart works harder when you're on the go all the time. Your heart works harder, and the healing on the inside cannot happen. You look well on the outside. That's my quote. You can look well enough to live, and drop that in the comments, and we can be sick enough to die because we look well on the outside. But on the inside, your body needs to heal. Your mind needs to heal, and rest is required. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. Whenever you hear this, whenever you see this, understand when we deny ourselves rest intentionally or unintentionally, we increase our risk for heart disease. That's my message to you today. That rest is required for better health outcomes. If you're working, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed, rest is required. Give yourself 5 minutes a day to unplug. Rest is required. Type that in the comments. Rest is required. Not idealistic, but rest is required. Rest is required. Let me say this. A lot of people think that I don't have money, I can't take a vacation. Rest is not a vacation. Drop this in the comment. Pick one or two. Rest is not a vacation. Rest is not a spa day. It's not a weekend off because all you do is stress about what you got to do on Monday when you go back to work. So many people say, I hate to take off because when I come back, this is what rest can look like. Let's be practical before we get out of here. Whew. I had to take a deep breath because so many people that I interact with are in unrested states. So many people that I interact with, professionals, have cardiovascular disease. So many people that I interact with are wanting to do something different, but they feel like they can't. But I really want you to understand. Let's start with rest. Don't even start with going to the gym. I got this 50 for 50 challenge going on. If you saw my post for yesterday on day 9, I'm talking about some stillness, right? Movement does not mean motion. So I'm going to come back to that, or just check out that post. But rest is not a vacation. It's not a spa day. It's not just taking extra days out. But this what it can look like. It can look like what I just described. Sitting in silence for 5 minutes before getting into your car, before starting your day, before ending your day. Rest can look like saying no without over explaining. All the energy that it takes to over explain. Saying no without over explaining can give you peace of mind. Throughout the day, I invite you, rest can look like taking deep breaths and unclenching your jaw because you be having them jaws so tight. Unclenching your jaws, taking a deep breath, and then I'm big now on getting rest at night, going to bed. I'm going to post my metrics soon. I'm getting much more rest than I got last year in 2025. And that's no badge of honor to even talk about saying that I was only sleeping 4 hours and 3 hours a night. That was until I got information from my medical provider that told me if you keep going at the rate that you're going, you're going to have cardiovascular disease. You're going to have heart problems if you don't start to rest. That's what got my attention. Yes, I worked out. I'm a whole food plant based vegan. I eat plants, right? I'm a health coach. I'm a lifestyle health interventionist. I work around your food, your nutrition. But what came to my attention was my lack of rest. Not that I didn't know it, but I wasn't practicing it because it didn't hit me. And so now understanding that I have lived my life without cardiovascular disease, and then you around here grinding and waking up early and going to bed late and not resting, and you end up with cardiovascular disease because you did not rest. No, sir, no, ma'am. I will not. I refuse. And so when you see me having these conversations about rest and tying it back to cardiovascular disease, do your research. But that is the truth. Those are the facts. I'm in bed at 8 p.m. I'm on my way. I'm not at 8 p.m. because if I went to bed at 8, I would be up at 2 a.m. But I'm on my way. I have shifted. Thank you for that comment over YouTube showing out. Yes. Thank you over here on Facebook as well. So I want y'all to think about those practical things: sitting in silence, saying no without over explaining, turning your phone off. This is like turning your phone off, powering off for about an hour. And then just think about something or go to your favorite happy place, whatever your happy place is, so that you're not worrying about when I turn this phone back on. I just want to make it practical for us. And so rest at any moment will allow your body to feel safe, still, and supported. You're not lazy because you need to take a break. You're not a team player when you need to say no. Drop that in the comments. It's not that you're not a team player when you need to say no sometimes. But when we're making this thing practical and understand that it's not a vacation, you don't need money to take a break. I'm very concerned about our health outcomes, particularly cardiovascular disease. That's very near and dear to my heart. Definitely doing better, but not at that full 8 hours yet. Yeah, I'm not at 8 hours yet. I'm averaging six hours. I'm averaging 6 hours, even though I get 7 and 8 hours across the month, but on average. So my goal is to get 7, and then when I get 7, so I'm working my way in increments, D. I'm working my way in increments. I'm not, because I went from getting 3 hours of sleep in 2025, averaging 3.5 hours of sleep in 2025, to now getting 6 hours of sleep. Oh, I'm making significant progress. And again, I didn't make these changes until I got the information. When my doctor said that, hey, this is what it's going to look like down the road, then I had information that I trusted. Let me say that. I didn't get that off TikTok. I know y'all like to get a lot of stuff off TikTok. Y'all like to get a lot of stuff off. No, I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor. That's where I got my information from. And so check with your medical provider. Check with your medical provider. Find out where you are and where you stand. And so I want to leave you with this. If the leading cause of death in the United States, and most people on here are residing in the United States, shout out to everybody everywhere else, but if the leading cause of death in the United States is heart disease, then protecting our hearts must become a priority. Not just physically, but emotionally as well as spiritually. Y'all know Jesus went away and rested a lot. They was on that boat where Jesus was asleep. If Jesus rested, Come on now, saints. Come on now, lights. If Jesus stepped away and rested, who are we not to? Oh, that was an intentional pause. If Jesus stepped away and rested, who are we not to? And so I'm going to ask you to start here before we get out. Thank y'all so much for joining. Share this if it touched you in any kind of way. Where can I give myself permission to pause, regardless of what role you play in your personal life or even in the workforce? Whether you're the CEO, whether you are the president of the organization, you need to rest too. Whether you're the supervisor, the manager, the program director, the administrative assistant, the janitor, the cleaning technician, whatever your role is, you need to rest too. Everybody need permission to rest. Government officials, police officers, the military, people need permission to rest. When they come home, give them a rest break. So I want to leave you with this. Where can I give myself permission to rest? Evaluate that. Where can you give yourself permission to rest? What am I holding on to that I need to begin to put down? What am I holding on to that I need to begin to put down? I want y'all to think about those two questions. Where can I give myself permission to rest? You can start with 5 minutes. What am I holding on to that I need to begin to put down? Because you don't go from booked and busy to doing nothing. It's a transition. And I understand that. I'm still transitioning from one lifestyle to another, to this restful, easeful place. And I'm inviting you because cardiovascular disease, heart disease, is the leading cause of death in the United States. We want better health outcomes. It's not just nutrition. It's not just working out. It's not just you taking your medications as prescribed. It's also how you allow your body to recover. And that's what rest allows you to do. We're going to recover. Type this in the comment, and then we're going to get out of here. We're going to recover the recoverable. Type that in the comments. We are going to recover the recoverable. Your heart deserves to be recovered. Stillness in your life deserves to be recovered. This message is for anyone who wants to change your health outcomes, or the health outcomes of a loved one, or the health outcomes of someone you just know and you see them. Have that conversation. Not just about what they're eating, not just about their medications, not just about if they're praying and fasting. It's all of that. It is all of that. When we position ourselves to pause, then we can start to evaluate that thing. So we're gonna cover. Thank y'all for pulling up over here on Facebook. Thank y'all. Okay, YouTube, I see you. Yes. If you don't get anything else from the conversation today, I really want you to understand cardiovascular disease, heart disease, is the leading cause of death in the United States. And there is something we can do about it. There is something we can do about it. Start today. Your assignment is to identify what is one thing, what can I give myself permission to rest from? And what do I need to start putting down? It's been my pleasure to have this conversation with you all this morning. I am going to next Friday read view the rest framework again because I want you to hear the full framework as we close out. Are we closing out March? Yes, as we're closing out March next week. Even though February is Heart Health Month, Cardiovascular Month, there are new diagnoses every day. There are new diagnoses of cardiovascular disease every day. And as you know, we're doing life well, integrative health. I want you to understand that the lifestyle, as a lifestyle health element, lifestyle. So I'm getting out of here, but I'm getting hyped up, y'all. It's not just our nutrition. If you're on medication, I'm going to say this again because I'm not a medical provider. I am a healthcare practitioner as a licensed clinical social worker, but I'm not a medical provider. I want to make sure I clarify that. I do lifestyle interventions, okay? And so I want you to walk away with this today. We're going to recover the recoverable. Whatever your current condition is, let's look at your current condition as information. It's information. And so we're going to take that information starting today and do one small thing, not 10. And so when I post this video, drop in the comments, what's that one thing for you? It's been my pleasure to have this conversation with you all this morning. Rest is required so that we can recover the recoverable. I will see you all next week, next Friday, where we're going to lean into the rest framework. You're going to actually have a rest framework. What do I do? She talking about this, but how do I lean into it? I got you covered. Make sure you come back next week. Tag and invite a friend. Make sure you share this out and note in the comments what's that one thing that you're going to do to lean into your rest, to give yourself permission to rest. What is it that you're going to do today to start recovering the recoverable? I will talk to you all later. Have a beautiful weekend.